Hey, John.
Good morning. I'm good. I didn't know which one of these you want first.
Well, that's what it is. You can show them, I guess, what it is. So that's what they are. We field tested 4 different types of body cameras, including the V-View that the agency has had for about the past 8 years. And these companies, they sent them to us so that we could, we assigned them to deputies to field test them and come back with a report on how they performed and whatnot. Axon came back with the best, and their quote in the maintenance and whatnot really is better because we don't have that expense of an external hard drive to act as a server to store all of that digital data. That's what's nice about it. They store it in the secure evidence storage that they have. The district attorney's office has access to that automatically. So it helps on discovery issues and as well as preservation. It can't be edited. None of that can be. So it takes it out of our hands, basically. Like I told you a couple weeks ago when the issue was brought up, these things are not cheap. They're expensive. They are. And so that's why I wanted to give you what it is that we've done, so you think that we're not doing anything. We looked at all of them and coming up with what those amounts were. We did break this. We did have them break it down into 5 years. And you can go to, there you go, over a 5-year period of time with the purchase of the cameras, the evidence, the storage, the warranty and service needs, the whole bit. The first year comes up to $27,145. It for years 2 through 5, it is $18,070. These can. What's that?
What happens in year 6?
What happens at year 6 is that we renew the service contract. It can be renewed if we choose to do that. And it's actually, it would be closer to about $17,000 annually.
So it's not new equipment, it's just
No.
for the service.
No, it's just service, yeah. And the storage of the evidence.
Does it, do they replace?
Yes,
The
if anything's
machines as they-
damaged, they replace it automatically for nothing. There's no additional.
So that keeps going, I mean, in year 6,
It can.
7, if they wear out
Yes.
or whatever?
They replace
Steve,
it.
how many times, I guess this is, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but how many times you guys have had cameras as of now? You're using body cameras right now, are you not?
Yes, there's 6 of them that are actually serviceable right now. V-View quit replacing or repairing those about 1.5 years ago. And that's what's been the real struggle is where are we going to come up with this? And when the state legislators came out with this funding for a panel to examine body cameras to make it mandatory for law enforcement in the state, I have never seen what happened with that. We don't know yet what their findings were at all. If we know what happens in the past, more than likely it'll be another unfunded mandate that's placed upon us. Okay, so trying to get ahead of it as best I can is what I've been trying to do, to find out what would be the best quality as well as for the price, and understand that it would be a savings toward the taxpayers, and that's what we want. Unfortunately, it's not cheap, like I told you.
What I wanted to ask you more specifically, how many cases that have gone into trial where the DA has requested video information from the sheriff's contact and all that? Do you know how many in the time you've been here? How many actual times that's been
probably
used?
that have actually gone to like to a trial and whatnot?
Yeah, to a trial, or
maybe
where?
a half a dozen.
Maybe a half a dozen.
Yeah. Anytime that there's any type of video or audio evidence, it's presented to the district attorney's office for discovery as required by law.
So that's been in what, 2 years?
Yeah.
2.5 years?
Yeah. In the officer-involved shooting, we had, both were wearing the VView cameras. Those were all submitted, and that information was gathered. It actually turned out better as far as audio rather than video.
The preview isn't this one that you
No,
proposed,
it's
and
not
that's
this
the
one.
that you're
Yeah.
using right
And
now.
VView was the one that we had the constant problems with because of the tiny prongs for the connections, that you needed to put it in order to store the evidence onto the evidence data storage. And those little prongs, if you don't get it right, okay, they break. And that's what it would cost $100 to repair those each and every time. And it was constantly happening because they were getting old too. It was not a good design by the manufacturer. I had nothing to do with that. This is what we had when I came in. So this is a lot better because it actually downloads automatically when the officer comes into internet service. It automatically takes it and stores it automatically. So that's nice. But I looked at different ways to purchase this by looking at the first year. For 20 of them, it would be $3,000 for per officer. So breaking that out, taking amounts out of the budgets of Dolores, the sheriff's office, the casino contract, and gaming, depending on what gaming gives us this year, it may alleviate a lot of this cost. I don't know what that award's going to be, but that would definitely be it. And then the 5 officers in LEA, that's $15,000. Or LEA could cover it all. But the problem is, I don't know where we're going to be at with these vehicles in the lease next year. We're all kind of questioning where that's going to be.
Is this the 5th year? I don't remember. Is this
Yeah.
The final payment is February 1st, 2018.
Yeah. So
Well, then we're unhooked.
yeah, we'll do.
that would be nice. Yeah. I hope we're unhooked.
Well, we should, I mean,
Yeah.
Should be, it's a
Should
5-year
be.
lease.
Cars
That would
are-
be nice.
and
Yeah.
I haven't read that thing in a while, but didn't it say something to the effect of either we can choose to buy the cars for nothing or next to nothing? Is that
I think
something
we-
like that?
I'll have to go back and look at that. I looked at it not that long ago,
Yeah.
but I think the titles get turned over to us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a windfall too.
I don't know. I didn't negotiate that. It was kind of a screwy
Yeah.
deal to me.
But I
But
think we're done with it.
yeah, I certainly hope so.
well, you can help us in the future.
Oh, you bet. Well, we're doing it now. I mean, by just replacing what we have to, 3
Yeah,
vehicles
fleet
a
smart.
year, gee, many Christmas, it's a whole lot easier. But I've also have a line on where we can get rid of those interceptors too by other agencies they'll purchase. So that'll hopefully bring more money into that account than
What would you
has
like to
happened
go
in the
to?
past. A lot of the police departments in the state use those. And
No, but I mean, what would you replace them with?
the Ford pickups is what we're replacing the fleet with. It's either the Ford F-150 or the Chevy Tahoe. The Ford F-150s are really a good, dependable, quality vehicle, and they last. And it's more.
Four-wheel drive or
What's that?
four-wheel drive.
Oh yes, yeah. And they have the tow packages and the whole bit. What's nice about it, it has a higher clearance, and that's what we need. These interceptors are too low to the ground, which you take them off of a good graveled road or an asphalt road, and I'm telling you, you ended up with damage or front end alignment problems, and they're constantly having maintenance issues, constantly. Now, like I said from the very beginning, is that there's a number of recalls on each and every one of those vehicles. The biggest problem is the carbon monoxide that enters into the cabin. The local Ford dealer here, we've been working with Clint and them to get the parts to fix those recalls. And so those need to be done before we can transfer those next year to any other agency if we choose to do that. So
Doesn't Ford do that on a recall?
they do the replacements, yes,
Yeah.
but it's no cost to us.
Right.
But we
right.
need to get those done before you transfer
Right.
those
Okay.
vehicles
Well, I
on to
thought you were
somebody
having
else.
Clint do it in the police
No,
department.
no,
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 he's
he
just
can't. Yeah,
scheduling.
he just
I got it.
schedules.
How many
Yeah.
miles do you have on those vehicles?
They're
now?
anywhere from about 38,000 to about 60,000. Depends on the vehicle.
They're about halfway through their life, some
Yeah,
not even halfway
they are.
through their life.
Yeah, and I already have 10 recalls. You know, and that's dangerous stuff. Agencies around the country that have these same year, make, and models, there are officers that experienced out of control traffic crashes mainly because of the carbon monoxide that overtakes the driver.
Hmm.
Yeah, pretty scary. So.
I
But
lost
anyway.
connection here. I'm trying to make it. There.
So I just kind of want your input and ideas of, just think about it, I guess, how we want to do this. We can wait. I mean, there's nothing that has to be decided immediately.
And then, so we got this, where we could review this.
Mhm.
And then I happened to be just
Right.
reading the news,
Mhm.
and I read this article, and
Yep.
so it intrigued me, and I wanted to just know what you think about what this article is saying.
You bet.
It's talking about police
Mhm.
behavior that which is saying in the end it was good because there was no significant difference in how the citizens were complaining about how the treatment from the police officers. If this is true, is it necessary, you think, to have the cameras? Go down a little bit further. There's a statement.
I think we're gonna expose ourselves to more liability by not having them. I mean, I read
Okay.
this article, and
Okay.
this article basically was like the amount of complaints made against law enforcement for police brutality or excessive use of force didn't go down with the use of body cameras.
Okay.
That so it either didn't deter bad behavior, but I mean, I don't want to necessarily, hopefully we shouldn't be worried about, we have to make sure our law enforcement isn't using police brutality. I mean, what it does, the positive thing with it is it clarifies discrepancies when people are arguing about details.
Okay.
And you know what, you don't have to worry about, two different people's version of things, of whatever, you said audio, and so I don't know, number of shots fired and stuff.
Mhm.
Some people say, I heard 50 shots, and say, well, no, I only heard 6. And we got an audio recording of it. Who cares what you say you heard?
Okay. All right, well,
we know how many, things there were on that. And so, I feel like, I don't know about the difference between what you're using now and these and all that, but the courts and the public in general are, even though there's no mandate yet, the courts and the public in general expect these things.
They do, and I'll go back to what I first told you several years ago with body cameras and video and whatnot. It's great when it captures what you want it to. It's a disaster when it doesn't, because it just makes you look like you're either hiding something or you've edited it, you've messed with it, you've cut stuff out of it. You get those accusations, and that's not what we do, and it can actually help in complaints against officers that are false allegations that are made and leveled. It can, if it captures what it should. But I've seen so many, especially in use of force issues, video and audio from body cams that don't capture everything that it should. And so it gives you a false impression that, well, maybe they were in the wrong, until you actually get in to learn the actual true facts of what happened. It's just like the officer-involved shooting that we had on July 4th with those 2 body cams. It was obstructed when the officers brought their weapons up because you couldn't see anything but but their arms are the stocks of the rifle, okay? But you still heard what was going on. But when the one officer shot, the other flinched. Was that the officer who shot, or did both shoot? You see, where the question was until you go back and you investigate everything and you process the scene to actually how many shots were fired, and there was just one. So it wasn't the officer that flinched, it was the other officer that fired. And so those are the false impressions sometimes that it can lead to.
And I don't know the details of that
Yeah.
particular Blackboard shooting, but maybe it saved us from a lot.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. There's just no way that we can have video on all of us that wear the uniform every single minute that we're out there every day. That's why policies and discipline and the training are so important. And having the right people in those positions is so important. So, I had one person ask me, or I heard it from him, that, since when did the good guys become the bad guys? What's happening around the country isn't happening here. And we won't ever let that happen. If there is somebody that steps out of line, it's dealt with immediately. It's not anything that's covered up, overlooked, neglected in any way, shape, or form. And that's been my promise ever since I've been here. So, but anyway, let's take a
So the
look
question
down the
before
road.
us today is which one to pick?
Whatever you have, what the costs are. What I'm asking is, how should we pay for this? I'd just like some thought put into it, if we want to do it in the first place, and if we do, how should we pay for it?
When you suggested that what we get from the tribe might help offset that, is that something that we include into a grant, or how?
There's no grant. There's no grants involved. We're paying.
You're thinking of reallocating monies that you receive from the gaming.
Right, from gaming.
You're talking about cutting and play. You're going to
Right.
take this money from other.
Yep.
So what are you willing to sacrifice from those other budgets to make this happen?
3,000 from Dolores, 3,000 from the sheriff's office budget, 3,000 from the casino contract, $3,145 from gaming, unless we get more from this year that's awarded to us for next year, as well as a percentage of 15,000 out of LEA for the 5 officers that are there. So it's roughly 3,000, apiece.
Will all those different entities or whatever benefit from it, probably, like Gaming and Dolores?
Oh yeah, I mean, because you're equipping each officer with a body camera.
So it's
Every one of
fairly-
those departments.
Every one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So spreading it out, is the right thing to do. It really is.
Are you going to diminish your services in any of those
No.
by taking?
No, I won't
Take that
diminish
money.
the services. Is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about? No services will be diminished. These are the funds that would be available to pay for that if we choose to do so.
Well, I was skeptical after reading that article, but I have a lot of faith in our lawyer. If that helps, I'm for it. But what do you commissioners think?
I hate to say it, but it probably is.
It may be something that we may have to do, and it's what we've all discussed here is probably the right thing to do. But like I told you from the beginning, there's a cost to it.
So it's 18,000.
27 the first year,
Yeah.
and then 18 for the next 4 years, total of 99,000.
Yep.
And then after that 5-year contract, there's an ongoing 18,000 a year, you estimated, or
Yeah.
17
Right.
for the
Gosh,
maintenance.
that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of
Yeah,
money.
It's a lot of money.
What do we do with what we have right now? Do we have a contract? Or is
No,
it-
there's no contract. We own those straight out.
How many cameras is it?
20. And the B-view cameras, the body cams that we have now, can be, if we turn everything into Axon, this cost will go down. What the amount is yet, I don't know yet. I put calls in this morning
They'll do a
They'll-
buyback on these
They
that you
will,
have?
they will give us, funds for those body cams that we have, whether they're working or not.
So you're still gonna be short, because what does that come up to, which you added up? The number with, where you're gonna take it from, 15,000?
Yeah, out of LEA, and then the 3,000 from the other budgets.
So that's
For
12
the
and 15.
Dolores
It's
SO.
27,000.
That's their first,
That's the
Casino?
first year,
that's their first
the
year.
first year.
And then how do we pay for the next 4 years?
The next 4 years would be, again, a percentage from each one of those. Just over 18,000 or 1,800 from Dolores, 3,915 from the SO, the same from the casino contract. Gaming would be the same. LEA is 4,517.50. So it's roughly, it's only $903 a person or per camera each year after that for 20. So it splits it up so that everybody is paying where I have the funds to pay for it.
How long does the camera, how long does it record?
It'll record for 40 hours, easy.
40?
40, yeah.
Then do they?
But it
when
downloads automatically. Remember, when it goes into that internet service, it downloads automatically and takes it off of it.
So it downloads and removes.
Automatically and stores it into their evidence storage that we have access to and the district attorney has access to, that associates it to those cases.
So there's potentially a lot of storage that has a lot of footage that
Oh,
is
yeah.
not necessary. I
We
mean,
would have to have a very
traffic
large
stops and-
amount of data space in a server, a separate server, that would cost more to maintain and purchase that from our IT department to have that happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've dealt with that with our IT
I
department
know.
on
It's
on
expensive
these
stuff.
cameras, like it down over at the clerk and recorders and
Yeah.
stuff.
What's the life expectancy of these?
These are expected to last at least 10 years. But like I said, they're on complete warranty. So anytime anything happens to them, if they get broken, destroyed, lost, damaged, whatever, they're replaced.
At no
But we
cost?
don't, yeah, at no cost. And because that's what we're paying for too. But the other thing is that there's nothing on that camera that can ever be obtained from anybody. So if it is lost, it won't do any good because it's downloaded automatically. So
And from a trial attorney, you think that this is good for the police and good for the,
I think footage is, I mean, I don't know about the different proposals or which camera to use or that type of thing, but I think that, from liability reasons, and, not even, I'm not talking about necessarily criminal trial stuff, but for
But civil,
liability
yeah.
reasons, I think that it's going to most likely, there's just one lawsuit, way more than $27,000. So if we got sued for this shooting on July 4th, we made our money back 5 times.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I think it's more of an issue of transparency. We want that. We want to not hide stuff. We want, to have whatever we can have at our disposal. And this article that you saw, I think, was more about it didn't always deter bad conduct.
oh no, it won't. Yeah. It won't. Nothing ever will.
But oh well.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do
You
about that.
hope, yeah.
So none of this is not in the budget proposal that you gave us, so this would be in addition to. Is that correct?
Well, not necessarily, because I've looked at what funds would be available, either remaining this year or into next year, that would pay for those without adding anything other than creating a capital line item for an LEA, if that's what we wanted to do for that amount.
So the first year you said 15,000.
15,000, yes.
And then 4,000.
Then 4,517 out of LEA. Or, when the car thing goes away, LEA could pay for all of that. Those are always options.
You do one more payment on the cars.
Yes.
this February.
And last year the LEA didn't have enough to do the whole payment, so it did some there and some out of capital. I can't remember.
I That's what I was wondering.
Like
What
160 and 16 or something like that last year, I believe.
What happens next year with the LEA if you have one more payment to make?
I don't know how I haven't got the LEA budget prepared enough to know how much of the LEA can take care of it next year.
I think that final payment was less
It's a
than our,
lot less, yeah.
or a lot less than our previous 4
Yeah.
annual
The
payments.
last one?
Yeah, yeah, I think it is.
Okay, I'll have to look.
But-
I
Yeah,
thought they were
look and see that.
177 each year, but
I thought
that
last
number
summer
sticks
you
in my
said,
head.
yeah.
But
You might be right about that. Yep.
But anyway,
But it's options. So, like I said, nothing had to be decided now. I wanted to bring this to you so that we could discuss it and you can see what's there.
What do you commissioners think?
Well, I think it's probably something we need to do, but I think we need to see what the budget's gonna be.
no. And I think if Steve's willing to take it, I mean, I don't want him sacrificing where you're taking
Right.
from Dolores, and if you're not sacrificing the
I know.
services that are supposed to be provided in those other things, if you've obviously got room in there that you feel like this is workable. To me, the LEA is the part of it that I'd be most concerned
Oh, I
about.
know. I am too.
Because, but it's gonna be freed up after we.
but the
and
LEA
it's
is
on the cards, we're
Yeah.
gonna be in pretty good shape, but.
the LEA is going to get hit with an adjustment because of the lower assessed valuation.
That's
So we're going to have
true.
less money coming in. I don't know.
That-
I haven't calculated that yet.
Yeah,
But-
yeah, that's a consideration. But earlier, a gentleman, we were having a discussion earlier, and he was talking about a county that he knew of that they were into a couple of trials that ran in $700,000 that the district attorney's budget didn't have, and the county had to dig into their monies, general fund monies, to pay for those trials. And you know, if you get things that get away from you, I mean, things can get.
That's just it.
They can spiral out, and you have no control over those
Exactly.
things, so.
That's why I wanted to look at the funds that I have available, and I would never sacrifice service for that. Let's do without that.
This is the public
Okay.
notice, and it's in Burke, South Dakota. Due to lack of funds, Gregory County Highway Department will only remove snow on gravel roads if it is over 6 inches deep or drifting. We will maintain the asphalt roads as usual. Also, there shall be no obstructions such as hay equipment stacked or baled hays within 100 feet of the center of the road on north and west sides, and 75 from the north center line on the roads on the southeast side. Because of drifting.
Yeah.
But
They had to cut their road, department, you know,
that's
they
pretty
were-
big.
They were starting to rob every other department to
Sure.
pay for these trials, and that's a.
Yeah,
kind of
serious,
scary.
serious winters there in South Dakota.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah. But it could happen here too. It has back in the 60s. That way.
But the point of that being that the county
It's kinda
had to
expensive.
take funds from other departments to
Sure.
fund these trials that were strangling them.
Well,
If this,
that's the business that we're in. A lot of it is unforeseeable. You do the best you can with what
I'm
you got.
for you doing it. If you're gonna, if, as far as like you figured out how to get the money the first year, and then, I mean, all else fails, you can take the money the same way every year.
Same way
yeah, and
every
it's 9,000 less after
Exactly.
the first year,
Yeah.
so.
Well,
Anyway,
how about we look at this again in December?
Yeah, let's look at
Let's
it
do
after we
that, because
finalize
then
our
we'll know,
budget.
hopefully I'll know what I'm getting back from, on the gaming
Yeah.
request.
Right.
And
Okay.
what you'll be discounted for training.
Exactly, so. And we'll have,
And these price quotes are good for.
that's
how
why
long,
I
Steve?
signed this, is to seal these this
Okay.
price, yeah.
So it's good
bet.
until you make.
It's
the
just a
decision.
quote, and that's a guaranteed price,
Yeah.
so,
all
okay?
right,
Okay.
No.
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.